Hello everybody, welcome to Eau Brink Studio. My name is Anita if you haven't met me before, and we are based in West Norfolk, just outside of King's Lynn. Today I'm going to show you how to use transfer dyes. They come in these little pots, you mix them up with water. This is a very fine powder, and once it's mixed you get a liquid dye that you can paint with. Some of you at one of the recent shows may have bought one of these kits which has a piece of transfer dye paper in it, and it has some fabrics and some beads and a piece of sheet music all ready for you to create something wonderful in. I'm going to show you how to use this front sheet. If you're going to use an iron, you need to make sure that your iron is set on hot and no steam. On here I have got lots of layers, so there's an ironing mat, some heavy duty calico, then I've got some linen, and then on top of that I've put some baking parchment. This gives us a nice firm springy surface to work on. The first thing I'm going to show you is how to transfer the colour and create a design using grasses onto a piece of calico. So I put my calico down first, I then select some grasses which I'm laying on, not necessarily in any particular order, just chucking them on really. Seed head. And a flower. This is the reason I cultivate weeds in my garden. And then let's put some more up close. I'm also going to use these stems, which I'm just going to lay across here, just to give the impression that there's more grasses on there than there actually is. Okay, over there. Once you're happy with your design, you then lay your transfer dyed paper over the top. You then put another piece of baking parchment over the top of that, and the point of that is to protect your iron. And then we're going to put the iron on, but what we have to do is keep it moving, because if not you will get iron shapes. Put a little bit of pressure on, not a huge amount, but just a little bit, because you want to be able to see your grasses. Don't let anything move while you're doing this, but just keep it moving. We do want to squash our flowers. This is much easier, and I'll tell you, in a heat press, which I will show you in a moment. Then when you think you may be getting near to where you want to be, just keep lifting it up and having a look. It does take some time to do this, which is another reason why I use a heat press, as it's far quicker. Keeping it moving so we don't get iron steam holes or iron shapes on it. Yes, of course you really want to, and you will be able to smell the vegetation that you've put in there, because you're actually cooking it in a way. You see it's now beginning to transfer. I'm showing you this in real time so you can see how long it takes while I'm rabbiting on. Once you've got it on there, then of course you can stitch into it, or even add more colour into it if you wish. And the grasses that are actually touching the paper with the transfer dye on, you'll find that the dye will transfer onto those grasses so you can get another print just from your grasses, which again I'll show you in a moment. See how we're doing? Getting there. Need more down here. Keep it nice and smooth. You'll get more than one print as well, depending on how much you've painted onto this and how much you've made your dye up with the water, because if you put less water in, you're going to get a much higher concentrate of dye, whereas if you've put a lot of water in, then you'll get less. And this marking here that we're getting is due to the paper still being wet when I put it on, which I quite like. And we can keep ironing that until we get it as dark as we want to. But I think I might take this off now. And maybe a little bit more down here. I am still pressing. Okay, so let's take that off. Take these off. And you can see our grasses. I'll just shake the seeds off. No. Okay, so that's that one. We're then going to use the same one on paper. This time I'm not going to put any grasses on, I'm just going to lay that on there and iron it. It's ironing the paper nice and flat as well. This works with any paper, it doesn't have to be sheet music. It just so happens that I have a huge box of old sheet music that was given to me. So we're going to use it up. If you want to stitch into paper that's fragile, like this would be, I suggest that you put some Bondaweb on the back and then a thin cotton of some description, anything will do. It's just to stabilise the paper as you're stitching into it. You don't have to do this with all papers. It all depends on how fragile the paper is. And there we go. See how the colours are coming out now. Just keep going until you're happy with what you want. So you might not want a great deal of colour, or you might want a great deal of colour. It all depends on what you're going to use it for. Well, this paper has still got plenty of dye in it. You see we've changed the colour of that now. Okay, well, I'm just going to do exactly the same but on the heat press, which is just behind my lovely son who's filming this. So we will turn around. This is the heat press. I have got it set on 200, so we've only got a minute and a bit to go before that becomes 200 degrees. The top plate is the very hot bit. This bit isn't too bad. And again, we have a rubber surface on this one. We've put some baking parchment on it. I'm going to put our piece of calico on. There, like so. Get all the bits off it. Get some grasses. Should just start laying them on. Not worrying too much about cutting these down because they're not going to go anywhere once they're squashed in here. They tend to stay. I think I've got too many of them maybe. Another one of those. And another bit there, I think there. Maybe there. Lay my papers on the top. I'm actually going to go with 2 papers. On this one, we'll just see what happens. Another sheet of baking parchment over the top of that, and then I'm going to put that down, and that's going to stay in there for 60 seconds. And what's happening is it's got plenty of pressure. If I want to increase the pressure, I just need to turn this or release it if I want to make the pressure a little bit less. The steam that's coming off it is the grasses that are cooking. Also, it's the wet paper that I've just put under there too. So we're on 30 seconds now. I could take it out now, but I want to see how much colour we're going to get, because I deliberately haven't put a lot of dye onto these particular pages, so that you can see the difference between the two, and see how much quicker it is with using one of these. If you've got a heavy iron, an old heavy iron, it would be a lot easier than using the modern sort. Okay, so lifting that off, we always take our paper off like that so that we know to put it, when we go in the next again, back that way. Take these off. Ooh. And as you can see, it's so much quicker and easier with our heat press. And here is the results from the heat press. This is very, very hot. And if we compare it with our ironed piece, which is much subtler. Okay. And I'm just going to show you on the back of one of these. This one you can see has been used. This is the packs that many of you have bought. In your pack you will already have some pieces that have been put underneath the heat press. You've got some designs on them if they've already had grasses and flowers put on them. This one was just put on wet, so that gave us that lovely grainy look as though it's part of some wood. This one has just got a few little bits and pieces on there, which I think is actually off that page. But I'm now going to put this under the heat press with that page so that you can see what happens. Same thing. Put that down. Bring that over. And I'm going to give that its full 60 seconds. Not quite actually, because this machine makes a dreadful noise at 60 seconds. So you can machine stitch into these or you can hand stitch into them. It all depends really on what you prefer. Hand stitching, you can use all different types of weights. I do recommend that you use a hoop for hand stitching and machine stitching if your fabric is thin. The fabrics that are in these are cotton. So this is 100% cotton, so if you're not going to back it with something, then I suggest you do get it in a hoop before you start working into it, which would make your life an awful lot easier. Otherwise it all puckers up as you're stitching. And there you see, now our page is yellow. There's still dye on this piece. It can still be used again and again and again. They do get paler and paler as you're working with them. However, we now have a nice combination of colours that we can use for this to do ourselves a nice piece. And in them I always put a small amount of beads and some hand dyed threads, ready for you to stitch into. And that is how you use your transfer papers to create your transfer design. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any questions, just ping me an email. If not, I will see you at the shows hopefully, and the next one that I'll be at will be Farnborough, and I will have these there then. Thank you. Bye.